Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz. It is nice to have you with us. It is official, 12:01 a.m. The United States government is shut down. The Democrats, they did it on purpose. Apparently, it was their plan. And the question is, for how long have they been planning on doing this? Senator, this is going to be a very interesting show. This all revolves around the Senate. That is something that maybe some people don't realize. Everything's come out of the House. We're now to the Senate side of things.
Yep.
And I want you to explain what it was like in the hours leading up to the shutdown. Was there ever a chance in hell that the government wasn't going to shut down?
No. There was never a chance. It is just after midnight, so the government is shut down just for a few minutes. But I think the government shutdown is going to last at a minimum of days. It may be weeks, and it may even be longer.
Really?
Yes. This could extend for a significant period of time. And understand, this is the Democrats' roar that they hate Donald Trump. So I got to say, we had the vote tonight. There was no surprise. Everyone knew the outcome. Out of 100 senators, all of us knew the outcome. The vote was 55 to 45. So 3 Democrat senators voted to keep the government open. By the way,
that was a pretty big deal, right? I mean, did you think those 3 were going to go, or did you think it was going to be a unanimous vote? I mean, Fetterman and 2 others, that is significant.
Yeah, look, Fetterman, I was not surprised. So Fetterman voted to keep the government open. Cortez Masto voted to keep the government open. And Angus King voted to keep the government open. That's not shocking to me. It's 55-45. Now, why did the government shut down? Look, the basic operation of government is the federal government cannot continue to operate unless Congress appropriates funds. Under the Constitution, Congress has the power of the purse. So Congress appropriates the spending of money. A typical fiscal year is October 1st to September 30th.
Yep.
This particular funding ended at midnight on September 30th. You and I are recording this just after minutes after midnight on September 30th. The appropriation, the authorization for Congress to spend money expired minutes ago. Now, there are a couple of ways you can extend the government funding. One is an appropriation, and so they're typically, in a good year, there are 13 appropriation bills that fund each different kind of major segment of government. For a number of years, the appropriation bills have not passed. The other major way that government authorization occurs is through what are called CRs. CR is short for continual resolution. A continual resolution is essentially Congress saying, what we are spending now, we can continue the status quo identically for X period of time. Now, the House of Representatives passed a CR, a clean CR, to fund the federal government through the middle of November. So if the Senate had passed it...
Hold on, let's be clear. When you say a clean CR, that means no political shenanigans in it. It's literally saying we're taking the 25 budget year and we're going to say the exact same amount we spent in August, we're going to spend September, October, November until we get the new budget. There is no pork barrel extras. There's no political shenanigans from either side.
Yes. A clean CR says what we spent yesterday is what we'll spend tomorrow. That everything just continues the same. And that's what the House has passed. Now, the challenge is for anything to pass the Senate, and that is in the nature of an appropriations or a CR, it takes 60 votes. Because under the filibuster rule, you've got to have 60 votes to move forward on legislation. So as I mentioned, we got 55. We got 3 Democrats, but we need 60, which means we need at least 7 Democrats. And actually here we need 8 Democrats because Rand Paul voted no. So we had 52 Republicans vote yes, and we needed 8 Democrats to vote yes to fund the government. Well, we only got 3. And
that was on purpose. And I want to pause just for a second to go back to CR historically. Let's just go back to Biden's time in office when you guys were in the minority. If I'm not mistaken, you guys did this more than a dozen times where you came together
13.
and said, hey, we may
13.
not 13 times. All right, so 13 different times y'all came together and said we're going to spend exactly what we spent yesterday to keep the government open so we avoid a government shutdown. And you put the American people ahead of politics. And that is a bipartisan moment, right? They had to have some of your votes.
So look, every time we came to the end of government funding, you would have enough Republicans join with Democrats to keep the government funded. Now, what has changed? Well, several months ago, we had another expiration of government funding. And what happened is Chuck Schumer and the Democrats decided, okay, let's keep the government going. A very reasonable, a very common sense, a very normal decision. The Democratic left-wing base lost their mind.
Yeah.
And Chuck Schumer nearly lost his job. Because Schumer allowed the government to be funded several months ago, the left wing rose up against him. And you want to understand why we have a shutdown? It's one thing. Schumer is looking over his left shoulder, and he sees AOC running up behind him. And he is terrified he's going to lose his job. So listen, Schumer knows this is not going to work. He knows this is failure theater.
So this is just pure cover your ASS politics 101 by Schumer.
So the radical left wing, they hate Trump. And they want today to be a giant FU to Trump. They want it to be, we hate President Trump, and we hate President Trump so much we're going to shut the entire government down because rawr. That's what we're watching. Now, by the way.
So then, hold on. When did this become the plan? Was this weeks ago, months ago? Was this when they had the last CR? He's like, God, the next time it comes up, I have no choice. I got to shut down the government to flex my muscles. And also to there is a real concern by him that AOC is going to run against him, primarying him in the Senate. By the way, that is after the next presidential election cycle. Isn't he up 2 years after, if I'm not mistaken? So it'd be like 5+ years from now?
So, and to be clear, I predicted on this podcast, the inaugural member, the chairman of the AOC for President campaign is Chuck Schumer, because he is desperate for AOC not to primary him. Yeah. And he's gonna say, Alexandria, you are such a big deal. You are so important. Really, the Senate's too small for you. Why do you want to bother being in the Senate? Sure. You should be in the White House. Schumer is going to be all in on that. But he is living with absolute PTSD. He is traumatized. He sees left-wing Antifa crazies coming around on every side. And so from his end, this shutdown is necessary politically. Now, what did the Democrats demand? They demanded a lot of things. You know what their number one demand was?
What's that?
Free health care for illegals all over the country.
By the way, I mean, when you think about that and the polling data and what it says, I don't understand why that would make your number one thing, because it's clear that the people are behind President Trump securing our borders, stopping government waste, fraud, and abuse. DOGE was a big part of it, and also making sure that we're not giving out benefits to illegal immigrants. So like, no. We want to spend, $1.5 trillion if you want our votes, and it has to be for health care for illegal immigrants and food stamps for people that are able-bodied, for example, that refuse to work. That's another thing in there. Like, no. We by golly, you better give mine to people that are just straight up lazy, that aren't that have the ability to work, but you got to pay them to stay home.
Yeah, a huge chunk of this is getting rid of the work requirement for government benefits. The Democrats don't want anyone to have to work. They want them to be able to sit at home and get government checks. But did you see the AI video the White House put out?
Which one? They put out a couple different things. Which one are you talking about?
I want to play this for everyone. Okay. This is fake. So all the nattering nabobs, this is fake news. But it is absolutely hysterical that the White House put out. This is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries explaining what this shutdown is all about.
All right, so Senator, here is that audio. Yes, as you mentioned earlier, this is a spoof. It is like Saturday Night Live, except it's coming from President Donald Trump's account, which is the best part about it. Take a listen to this.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know? at least for a while, until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
See, this is when I love AI. This is when I absolutely love the spoof from the president. And if you can't see this, you need to go look at it. We put it up on social media.
The video's important.
Jeffries has got a really nice handlebar mustache and a sombrero on.
So look, pause for a second and realize that was released by the White House. That was released by the President of the United States. I feel a little guilty because we've got some curse words in there. We try to avoid curse words on this podcast. But what do you do when the president has put that out?
You play it.
And I got to say, the video, so today at lunch, so every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all the Republican senators have lunch together.
Yeah.
Today at lunch, John Thune met with the president, met with Schumer, met with Hakeem Jeffries at the White House. And so Thune was giving us a download on that. And you know, Thune was talking about, okay, the Democrats, they don't want to cut a deal. They're not willing to give in on anything. And I will confess, I raised my hand. I had a question. I said, John, was Hakeem Jeffries wearing the sombrero?
And what did he say?
He just laughed. But look, and everyone cracked up. But that image, listen, the Democrats have literally shut down the federal government because they want free health care for every illegal alien in America.
Yeah.
You want to talk about, like on every issue that's 80-20 or even 90-10, they're on the 20 or the 10 side. The American people do not support, if you want to have a referendum in this country, should we give illegals free health care? Wow, that will be overwhelming. But here's the secret. This shutdown is not actually about free health care for illegals. That's what the Democrats have hung their hat on because they got to say they want something.
Yeah, they got to say something, right?
This is all about just we hate Donald Trump. And it is Chuck Schumer job preservation. And that also means the end of this. Okay, there's no universe in which Chuck Schumer will get President Trump to agree to let's give free health care to illegals.
Yeah, not going to happen. They know that. This is pandering.
There's no universe in which Republicans in Congress are going to say, hey, that's a great idea. Let's give free health care to every illegal. Like that's, you might as well ask for Area 51, like to release the Martians and let them take over the country.
Yeah.
That is as likely to happen as free health care for illegals from Republicans. The Democrats know that. This is not about getting what they're demanding. This is about how long do they want to demonstrate orange man bad.
Yeah.
And so...
And the radical base is what has put them in this scenario, right? Like,
yes.
Do you actually believe, and let's go back to the history of the Senate here. I don't believe that Chuck Schumer actually wanted to shut down the government.
No.
I think he was forced to do it.
He would lose his job. He would lose his job if the government was open today.
It was self-preservation.
Yes.
He, in other words, this is weird. Chuck Schumer is being held hostage by the Marxist, communists, and socialists in his party, which they did not police, and they allowed to take over their party. Then he's now holding the American people hostage with a government shutdown, which brings me to the big question. Even when we've had shutdowns in the past, there has been some agreement centered like, hey, certain people should deserve to get paid. Those that are in the military, those with badges, like the list is not that long, but the essential important people that deserve to get a paycheck, we don't screw with them when they're protecting and defending this country. Can you guys at least, was there an agreement to pay them?
No.
Really? Okay, so walk us through that, because I'm assuming that came up at lunch.
So one of the things I did today is I sent a letter, because under the Constitution, members of Congress, our pay cannot be stopped. It's actually unconstitutional to reduce the compensation for members of Congress during the term we're elected to. So I sent a letter, and I've done this during every shutdown, saying, while the government is shut down, don't pay me. It's not fair. It's not right for an elected member of Congress to receive a paycheck when federal workers are not. Now, to be clear, I don't lose my pay when the shutdown is over. I'll get paid back.
It's just deferred.
Pay. But it's deferred, a
lot of people don't understand that. Which I think just asinine. And I have family members who work in the federal government, And they're like, the dumb part about this that I think a lot of Americans don't understand is that you don't miss a paycheck in your calendar year. You just miss a month, and then you get it backdated. You get it back the next time whenever the government does open back up. And so I know people that are in the FAA, for example, and they're like, dude, we just plan our vacations, like great trips around shutdowns, because we know we're still getting paid. We save. Not everybody can do that, but like they've almost pre-planned for this bonus vacation, and they're going to get paid back.
Yeah, but let me make several points of clarification.
Sure.
Number one, government shutdown is a misnomer. More than 80% of the government will continue to operate. So the basic principle is everything that is essential keeps going. So the military, our active duty military, like defending the nation against bad guys, that keeps going. The FBI, catching criminals, that keeps going. The Border Patrol and ICE, that keeps going. The FAA, air traffic controllers, tomorrow, if you get on an airplane, the air traffic controllers all go to work. By the way, the air traffic controllers are not getting a paycheck, so they're going to work, but every 2 weeks, federal government employees get paid. Air traffic controllers, Coast Guardsmen, military, the federal government, nobody gets a paycheck. And so what shuts down? Every cabinet secretary was assigned. Designate among your employees who is essential and who is not essential. I remember when Bill Clinton was president, we had a shutdown then. Remember, Newt Gingrich and the Republican Congress were fighting with Bill Clinton. We had a shutdown for a number of weeks. And I remember there was a headline that said the Department of Commerce designated 30% of their employees as essential and 70% as non-essential. I remember thinking, that's great. We just set a new benchline. All those non-essential, that's 70%, they ought to be done. But what that means, so what will be shut down? Starting October 1, national parks will be shut down. So I got to say, if you were planning to take your family to Yosemite this weekend, I'm sorry to say you're out of luck. Yosemite will be closed. If you were coming to D.C., to tour our nation's capital, you wanted to go to the Smithsonian, go to the Air and Space Museum, the Smithsonian will be shut down. If you look at things like the National Institute of Health, like research on cancer, much of that will be shut down. All across the federal... Because that's non-essential, and people are going to say that seems insane. Why wouldn't we fix that to make sure when we have these shenanigans happen that that's not affected? And I think this shutdown will extend... I think it'll be weeks. I think it will be Schumer is trying to protect his own rear end, and everything else is secondary to protecting his own political life. So I think we will see an extended shutdown.
So is this polling? I mean, how do you decide when you won or you lost if you're Schumer? Because this is not about the country hating Schumer. This is only about New York and protecting a seat from AOC. So in essence, you don't care how many people hate you in the country. It's only a New York thing. Is that, I mean, will they do polling? I mean, this is weird.
Yeah, look, so this is being called the Schumer shutdown.
Yeah.
And I got to say, the Democrats are losing the messaging battle. It is clear this is a Democrat shutdown. There was action exchange right before we had the vote on the CR to keep the government open. And this is a clean CR, no rioters, no nothing. This is just keep the lights on.
Status quo.
Schumer stood up and was speaking, and all the senators, or most of us, were standing on the Senate floor. And Schumer said, look, there's been reference to polling, but the polling has been biased. It's been right-wing polling. For example, the New York Times. And I got to tell you, I and every other Republican, we just started cracking up laughing. And you could see Schumer, he actually turned red. He looked sheepish because he just said on the Senate floor that the New York Times was a biased right-wing poll.
Yeah. And seriously.
And it was a moment where like Schumer, you saw Democrats looking at him going, dude, you look like a clown.
Weak. That's weak.
And that's because the New York Times did a poll. If the Democrats don't get everything they want, should they shut the government down? And 65% of Americans said no. Don't shut the government down. It was a small percentage. It was just over 20% of Americans that said, yes, shut the government down. So that's who the Democrats are responding to, but they've got Schumer's message is, The New York Times is a right-wing mouthpiece, and how dare you tell the American people that we, the Democrats, are shutting the government down. This is headed to failure. Everyone knows that. Every Republican knows that. Every Democrat knows that. Is there an outcome where Republicans say, okay, great, let's fund health care for illegals? No. The Democrats will give in. 3 Democrats voted to fund the government. What will happen is the government is shut down. People are going to get ticked off. People are going to want to use, by the way, things like passport services will be greatly reduced. All sorts of government. Now listen, the military keeps going, law enforcement keeps going, Social Security keeps going, Medicare keeps going, Medicaid keeps going. An awful lot of government keeps going. But the lack of government being open will be a serious function. And at some point, we will see 7 or 8 Democrats say enough is enough, reopen the government. That will happen, but let me tell you a huge piece that is an X factor in this, which is Russ Vought, who is the head of OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, works for the White House. He put out a memo a week ago that said, if there is a government shutdown, we are going to lay off federal workers. We're not going to give them a furlough.
This is the brilliant game of chess that was early on preemptive.
Yep.
Warning, you do this, and here's what we're going to do. And this might be one of the best moves I've seen politically in a long time in D.C., which is go ahead, do it, and watch what happens, because a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and that's going to be on you guys for allowing it to happen, right? So explain all that.
Yes. So Russ is a good friend. He's a strong conservative. He's a strong fiscal conservative. And what he said is, listen, if Congress decides not to fund the federal government, we're going to react to that by the White House has instructed every cabinet agency to prepare a plan for a RIF, a reduction in force, to give permanent layoffs, pink slips, to government bureaucrats who are left-wing bureaucrats who are advancing the priorities of the Democrat Party. So what you are going to see in the next few days, you are going to see bureaucrats at the EPA fired. You're going to see bureaucrats at the Department of Labor fired. You're going to see bureaucrats at the IRS fired. And within a couple of days, we're going to see Democrat senators, they're going to be in their lunches screaming at each other, because this is, frankly, an excuse for the Trump administration to do what they wanted to do anyway, which is get rid of left-wing bureaucrats. But they now have an incredible justification, which is, hey, Congress chose not to fund them. So instead of giving them a paid vacation, stay home several weeks, and then we'll pay you back pay and come back to your job, they're going to give them a pig slip and say, you're done. You no longer have a job. And I think that is going to ratchet up the pressure on Democrats massively.
So how quickly can these firings take place? How massive could they be? And how much research has been done behind the scenes to get rid of a lot of these woke bureaucrats that we've been wanting to get rid of, that the presidents want to get rid of, the cabinet secretaries have wanted to get rid of? Like, how? I mean, I'm assuming they're burning the midnight oil, kind of like Doge did. Let's find the people we want to get rid of, and this is our chance to do it. And by the way, once it's done, like, it's not like you got offering them jobs back. Like, it's done.
Yep. So I think that starts happening today. I think October 1, you start seeing pink slips. I think we will see left-wing bureaucrats fired today. I think we'll see them fired tomorrow. You know, this evening I had dinner with the Deputy Secretary of HHS, who's a longtime friend of mine. He was actually a groomsman at my wedding. Great guy. I asked him, I said, okay, the White House asked every cabinet agency prepare a list of people for the RIF. And he said, yeah, we're doing that. He said, every agency, when the White House directs us to do that, we do that. We're going to see, I think, hundreds, if not thousands, of left-wing bureaucrats fired in the next several days. I think that's going to put the Democrat Party in crisis. And by the way, we're not going to fire people that are critical for the priorities you and I care about. So we're not going to see Border Patrol agents who are securing the border fired. We're not going to see ICE agents who are deporting gangbangers fired. We're not going to see FBI agents who are catching pedophiles. We're not going to see them fired. We're not going to see soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines who are keeping this nation safe. We're not going to see them fired. We're going to see bureaucrats who are shutting down factories, who are destroying jobs, who are pursuing radical left-wing agendas. They're going to be the ones fired. And ultimately, the Democrats are going to cave. The only question is how long Schumer wants to go through this charade before he gives in.
Which brings me to my final question. That is, the media does seem to be covering this a little bit more with honesty than I've ever seen them before. Today, there was a viral clip that is the tables have been turned. Democrats are now literally under fire for a clip that shows them slamming government shutdown tactics, the same ones they're accused of using right now. And here's what it sounded like back in 2018. In December of 2018, Donald Trump was president, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi in the Oval Office. Listen.
We do not want to shut down the government because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something, Mr. President.
Let me say this.
North Dakota
This
and
is the
India.
most unfortunate thing. We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy.
No,
It's called transparency.
I know it's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts.
I mean, you listen to that one. They're like, we're not in favor of it. And then the speaker also put out a very interesting video montage reminding people the same thing. Like, hey, you guys think that it's the Democrats. Mike Johnson putting this out, and here he is, and what he said to remind the people about Democrats in their own words.
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
If the government shuts down, it will be average Americans who suffer most. A government shutdown means seniors who rely on Social Security could be thrown into chaos.
Families will be hurt. Farmers will be hurt.
It's the service members who will work without a paycheck. It's the firefighters who will be furloughed.
This shutdown, you know who's going to feel the pain? You know who it hurts? You. Everyday people and the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
Democrats are signaling they're ready for a fight. This time, Schumer tells the Associated Press, quote, things have changed.
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
I mean, I love them using AOC's words. I feel like the media has changed a little bit here. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm impressed that you recognize AOC's voice. I didn't know. I knew that was a shrill Democrat. I didn't know who that was. So I appreciate that clarity. Listen, every single Democrat, I think without exception, has gone on record being against shutdowns. The fact that they shut it all down today demonstrates what utter hypocrites they are. And I got to say, as I was walking off the Senate floor, so I voted to fund the government this afternoon. The Democrats voted against it and caused a shutdown. All the reporters were circling, and their talking point that they really wanted to press is they said, okay, Cruz, in 2013, in the fight over Obamacare, you, Ted Cruz, forced a shutdown. Isn't that what the Democrats are doing now? And I just started laughing at them. And I said, look, number one, in 2013, when I did a 21-hour filibuster on the floor, I was fighting for Americans. I was fighting for American citizens whose health care premiums had skyrocketed. And they had skyrocketed because Obamacare was a train wreck. It was a disaster. It caused a massive increase in health insurance premiums. It made the health insurance companies rich, and it made millions of ordinary Americans unable to afford health insurance. And by the way, I was also fighting for it at a time when the House of Representatives, that was Republican, had voted to fund the federal government, fund the entirety of the federal government, but not fund Obamacare. So not fund the law that was causing damage to American citizens. And I said, here what's happening is Chuck Schumer is shutting down the federal government, not to help American citizens who are getting hurt, but he's shutting down the federal government in order to help millions of illegal aliens and give them free health care. And he's willing to shut down your federal government to give free health care to illegals. And that fundamentally, there's a hypocrisy to it. And I also said, you know, the reporters were like, isn't it the same? And I said, listen, let me be clear. In 2013, it was Chuck Schumer who shut the government down then. I was trying to fund the entirety of the federal government except for Obamacare, and Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid decided, no, we'll shut it all down because we care so much about socialized medicine. And I told the reporters, we had like 50 reporters standing outside the Senate floor, and I said, look, none of you guys reported that. You all blame the shutdown on me because you're all left-wing hacks.
Yeah.
Today, all of you are still left-wing hacks. You agree with the Democrats. But the facts are so overwhelming, it is Chuck Schumer and the Democrats who are shutting the government down, that even you dishonest liars are reporting this is the Schumer shutdown.
Yeah.
Because the House has funded the government. Exactly the status quo. The funding yesterday is continued to tomorrow. It is the Democrats who said, let's shut it down. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to lose that battle. But this is... what you got to ask yourself is, how long do the Democrats have to perform for their crazy left-wing activists before they allow the government to reopen?
Until a poll tells them otherwise, is my guess. It's going to be interesting. I have a feeling you're right. We're going to be talking about this for
But
days,
you know what? They're not going to
weeks.
trust. They're not going to trust the polls from that right-wing mouthpiece and the New York Times. But maybe, I don't know, when Mother Jones and Communist Party of America has a poll that shows they're losing, maybe then they'll give up.
Maybe then. We're going to cover it all. Don't forget, we do the show Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Make sure you hit that subscribe or auto download button. Also, share this podcast on social media, wherever you are. And the Senator and I will see you back here under probably a government shutdown on Friday morning as well.